Hi, I'm Bob Herbert. Welcome to oped.tv. Veselka is the name of a beloved restaurant that has long been a hub of the Ukrainian community in New York's East Village neighborhood. Now, 2 years into Russia's brutal and unconscionable war with Ukraine, it is also the subject of a moving and inspiring documentary. Veselka means rainbow in Ukrainian, and the film is called Veselka, the rainbow on the corner at the center of the world. It tells the history of this restaurant, which started as a simple newsstand in 1954 and evolved over many years into a true cornerstone of its community.
When I graduated college, my father said, "What are you going to do with your life now?"
And I said, "I don't know."
My father said,
Well, why don't you come work in the family business with me?
Cherry pierogies, please.
at Veselka.
Veselka. I bet you half the staff here have been there at 2 o'clock in the morning.
People love this place.
You don't want to break good habits, and it's a good habit.
Thank you.
Now, as a result of this hideous war, it has grown into something larger still. It has become an extraordinary, extremely active supporter of its staff members and customers who have been so tragically affected by the war. And it is serving as a real-life, real-world source of inspiration for ordinary New Yorkers and for their fellow Americans and the people of Ukraine who revere freedom and are willing to stand foursquare against the evil forces of oppression. My guests are the owners of this remarkable restaurant, Tom Birchard and his son, Jason Birchard. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Tom, I think I'll start with you because, as I mentioned in the intro, Veselka started as a newspaper stand. Who opened that newsstand, and when was that?
So it was opened in 1954 by Volodymyr and Ola Darmokwal. My father-in-law was a well-known person in the Ukrainian community. He immigrated in 1950 from a displaced persons camp in Germany and then bought a tiny little, funky little newsstand on the corner of 9th Street and 2nd Avenue.
I remember those newsstands well. There were plenty of them in those days.
I was a sophomore in college when I met my wife and met the owners. And as I said, I fell in love with the neighborhood right away. It was just so different from what I was used to. There was an energy. There were so many interesting people.
Had you planned to become part of the business?
No, not at all, not at all. But I didn't know, you know, I was in school during the Vietnam War, so I was pretty active protest, you know, war protester.
Right.
And looking back, at that time I knew what I was against. I didn't really know what I was for or where I wanted to go. So, but as I said, I came to that neighborhood and fell in love with the people and the energy and my father-in-law took me under his wing and started teaching me a little bit about Ukrainian culture and food. So I grew to feel very much at home. And
so you just became part of the whole thing.
I became a Ukrainian by persuasion.
After he passed away, people could see that I was going to keep Veselka going.
But the Ukrainian community gave Tom the cold shoulder.
Veselka was a laughingstock. But the state gave me an opportunity to make a sizable deposit. And sure enough, we were chosen to be one of the first places in our area to sell lotto tickets. And those turned out to be hugely popular. And shortly after that, I put an ad in the Village Voice to hire a short order cook. And a fella named Max Cholowski showed up for the job, and fortuitously, he had worked for his dad in Brooklyn at a place that was very similar. But along with that, the city gave up on building the 2nd Avenue subway and they restored everything. Right around that same time, we got a positive review in the Village Voice. It was exactly what we needed at exactly, well, I was going to say the right time. I mean, it was way past time.
Jason, what are your earliest memories of the restaurant?
You know, my father was always one of stressing education in school, but also earning your keep. And besides doing daily chores around the house, you know, we had to come in and help out at the family business, which was at that time a small coffee shop. By the time I started working at the age of 13, so I was bussing tables. I remember on weekends. And I took a gap year between high school and university to help in the family business and did everything from make those handmade pierogies. I did every job, every job available. So those are my earliest memories. I mean, it's wonderful.
Did you think you'd end up running the business?
No, I mean it's stated in the documentary that I went to CUNY Albany, State University of Albany, our state school system, for economics and finance. I had envisioned that I'd be in Wall Street, but I found myself enjoying my experiences in the restaurant. I'm more of a people person, and not being involved with what Wall Street was about. And had the opportunity to work in the family business, and then took a diversion of sorts, but ended up back in the business in 2000.
So one of the things that is really fascinating in the documentary is that so it evolved into a coffee shop and then a restaurant. It became a real cornerstone of the community, and I'm trying to get a sense of how do you think that happened? Obviously, good food would help. So if you have a good menu, that's a big deal. But beyond that, why did it become so important?
Well, going back to the early days, it was one of the few newsstands, candy stores in the neighborhood that carried a big selection of Ukrainian periodicals, and back at that time there was.
And there was a Ukrainian community right there in those days.
Yes. But yeah, we still refer to it as Little Ukraine.
Right.
The main Catholic church is there. There's a credit union. Back then there were many butcher shops and gift shops. Unfortunately, most of those are gone now. But that was the start of Veselka becoming kind of a hub for Ukrainians. And then as that population dwindled, and I kind of very slowly converted it more into a restaurant, it became a place to enjoy really authentic Eastern European comfort food.
Right.
I mean, there were always some Ukrainians around, but our clientele grew as word got out that, hey, there's good cheap borscht over there, and there's some good pierogies.
So the restaurant was doing very well. And then you had two monumental occurrences. The first was the pandemic, which of course we all remember, and then the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So let's talk first about the impact the pandemic had on the business, whichever
Maybe
one
he
wants
can
to
start.
But when the pandemic hit, I mean, Veselka's in my bloodstream, right? I always prided myself on staying open during 9/11. Jason stayed open during Sandy. I stayed open during both blackouts.
Yeah.
So to contemplate closing, for which the government was forcing us to do, was really heartbreaking. I had been talking about retiring. Half a block from where I live, there's a big hospital, and they started bringing in the refrigerated morgue trucks. And I said to my wife, we had a second home in Vermont. Just for our own safety, we'd left, and luckily Jason took over. And then,
I mean, we remember that terrible time. The morgue trucks that you're talking about, and that sort of, and people were so frightened.
Yes, yeah, especially us older folks.
Right. Well,
everybody.
Older people were more vulnerable. I mean, we knew that.
Yeah.
It just so happened that he took over Veselka right when the pandemic hit. He grew up with this food. His grandmother would make this type of food. This is really home for him. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, he didn't know whether Veselka was going to continue to exist or not.
I've been in the family business now since 2000, working side by side and having a great mentor. And then when the pandemic hit, I mean, restaurants were forced to close indoor dining, but we could stay open for takeout and delivery, but we decided to take the higher road and conferred with my father. I mean, we'd never been at this point in our business, and we decided that there were no mask mandates, and majority of our staff commute on the subway, that we closed, and it was a very trying time, not knowing, we try to do our best part to flatten the curve. And believe it or not, the day after we closed, I got sick with COVID.
Oh my goodness.
Thank God, a mild version of it.
Wow.
But having experienced it, and then over a period of time, my wife got sick, and then I decided that I got it. Now I can come back out in the real world after it passing. And
were you ever worried about whether the restaurant would survive?
Oh, very much so. I mean, but actually, Because our landlord was also affiliated with my grandfather was one of the founding members of the organization that who is my landlord now. It's a Ukrainian scout group. They were very open to and very lenient about paying rent. So they said, you know, your health is you and your family's health is first. And after about 8 weeks, we decided to reopen, and we were very welcoming response. The people came back and said, "Thank God you're still here and you're still persevering." And slowly, as the governor and the government allowed us to reopen more and more, we opened.
So then, in February 2022, Russia invades Ukraine, and then there's this whole issue, and you know, from the documentary, you see that there, you guys and staffers and customers directly affected by this catastrophe. So many with relatives and friends in Ukraine and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard on many levels I think for both of us. You know, our business has been built by Ukrainian and Polish immigrants, refugees, incredibly hardworking, reliable, good cooks, and to see them suffer, be attacked like this, and suffer, and you know, be extremely concerned about their families.
Dima is one of roughly 30 Ukrainian employees. His mother and aunt are twins and living in Ukraine. Concerned for their safety, he has had one foot on a plane, ready to fight on the front. At Veselka, family has always been at the center of its long history.
The outpouring of support from our customers. People were coming to Veselka in droves just to eat there and show support for us and for Ukraine and our employees. So it was really heartwarming, gratifying.
So whose idea was it to become more active in your support? Because you turned the restaurant into a real support operation. How did that come about?
It was one of my initiatives. I mean, my grandfather, being a Ukrainian patriot, never saw a free Ukraine. He always advocated and held meetings and wanted to do the best he could. And people ask, I say that if he were alive, he'd probably pick up a gun and go defend. I mean, I had employees that wanted to go fight the young men.
Wow.
But we decided to create a campaign based around our borscht, our famous Ukrainian beet soup, that I would donate all the sales of our borscht sales, whether it was in-house, whether you took it home and eat it in your living room, or we ship it across the country, that I would donate that for humanitarian relief efforts. We had partnered with another neighborhood nonprofit called Razum for Ukraine.
People who don't know what to do or who feel like I do would go to Veselka and feel like, okay, I'm doing something.
Hi, donation?
Yeah,
I'll take it. We started this drive for diapers, baby food. As you see in the movie, we collected canned goods. And
it looks like a warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, but the outpouring from the neighborhoods, you know, the tri-state area came out and wonderfully to support, and we paired with our local Ukrainian St. George Church to help. They helped ship those goods to Ukraine. So, I mean, we've had the opportunity now, as we are 2 years into this, more than $500,000 has been raised.
Wow.
For a variety of different organizations, and it's due mostly to my staff and you know, the people that are continuing to come to eat and share.
One of the staff members featured in the documentary is Vitaly. Hope I have his name correct. Tell us a little bit about his story. I mean, how did he become a big deal at the restaurant? And then, of course, eventually his mother came to the States. What was the deal with Vitaly?
So I can start off with that because I hired him originally. I mean, he's turned out to
He's
be such
a young guy.
He was a young guy. He was probably 20 back then. He's turned out to be such a great asset to our organization, so I will proudly now take credit for hiring him initially. Yeah, but back at that time, to hire somebody and get them a green card and put them to work legally is a very complicated, expensive process. with lawyers involved, et cetera. But we thought it was more than worth it to do that for him, so we did, and he did eventually get a green card and become, I think he started out as a busboy, then a server. I mean, he's just such a hard worker and intelligent, totally appropriate, hospitable guy that...
Seems like a very serious man.
He's serious, but he can be very funny too. He lives with me and my wife,
Right.
so we've gotten to know him really well. His mom
His
and dad were
mother
back in Ukraine,
and his grandmother, I think.
Yes.
and his grandmother, and getting to know him, they were a very tight-knit little family.
How is it that his mom ended up here?
So Vitaly, living with me, shared with us that when the war started, that he was getting increasingly worried about her, and he went through the process to get her over here. When the war started, the government kind of relaxed restrictions on
Right.
Ukrainian refugees. So it was once she made the decision to come, the paperwork, the legalities of it are fairly easy. The trip for her was a little difficult because there was a war going on. So she took a bus from Kyiv to
Wow.
Poland and then flew. So he was monitoring her progress, and she didn't always have cell service or internet. So there was kind of a blackout period where we didn't know where she was. But then finally, as you see in the film, she does make contact with him and eventually gets here.
She had a great comment in the film. I think it was she was talking about America, I guess, and she said it's really easy to breathe free here. And I was thinking,
Well, we take those things for
we
granted.
take it for granted, exactly. That was like an amazing thing
Yeah.
to see.
Today we meet to raise Ukraine's flag for the very first time here at Bowling Green.
And today, the raising of the flags represent that we are united together.
As this is going on now, almost a day shy of a month, it really feels like a bad dream. It really feels like an episode of a Twilight Zone even. The tone at the restaurant, it's getting very somber. My employees feel helpless. But even now, even after a month of Vitaly's father hunkered in his basement or in subway tunnels, they tell me that we want to come and we want to work, we want to be with other Ukrainians.
Things have taken a darker turn of late, and there's some question about continued American support or the amount of American support. Has that been reflected in the restaurant, and the people in the restaurant or among the customers? Are people getting discouraged? What's the mood been like?
Fortunately, this movie, this documentary is coming out now, basically the day before the 2-year anniversary. I think it's continuing to shine a bright light on the plight and the struggles of the Ukrainians. I mean, even those that we've helped bring here, obviously they want to go home. They want to see this conflict end. They don't understand the politics of it. I mean, there was such a mass support here of Zelensky addressing the House on Christmas last year, around Christmas time.
Right.
They don't understand why it's become a political hot potato. But they're hopeful. I mean, as we all can be.
I want to talk a little bit about how the restaurant has changed. How has the restaurant changed from, let's say, prior to the pandemic until now? How is Veselka different?
Well, I'd say one thing is we have many more Ukrainian people working there because of the government relaxation of immigration. Again, when the war started, we got substantially busier. So we needed help, and we really needed accomplished, authentic Ukrainian cooks. And because
that is not something that I had thought of.
Well, we definitely parlayed that opportunity, but that's not what we were. We weren't looking to do that. That wasn't our goal, but it just happened to be a consequence.
So that's been a positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and it's also positive that we're able to provide these people with. I mean, Ukrainians pretty much are consistently workaholics. They want to work. And if they're not working, they don't feel good about themselves. So we were able to give several women good jobs cooking the food that they love and helping us out.
Well, what's interesting, if you're watching the documentary, it seems like a family inside the restaurant, and that really did seem genuine. It didn't seem like that was a put on or anything. Just you see the way people react to one another and that sort of thing. So I imagine, you know, that's developed primarily since the war.
I mean, I think there's the adage that, you know, prior to maybe the war, over the years, many people probably couldn't point to where Ukraine is on a map. You know, and now they know where and what they're fighting for and what some of their specialties or the foods that are associated with Ukrainian food. And we have a hashtag, that Ukrainian soul food in the heart of the East Village.
Wow.
So, but that being said, and Tom's mentioned this in other settings, that, you know, we're a restaurant of many grandmas cooking at different times. We're not your typical, you know, modern kitchen of sorts or restaurants. We're just a group of families that we've all kind of merged together as one great family, you know, one extended family.
Now, if someone is well, watching the documentary or watching this program, if they want to help, if they want to do something that could contribute, how can they do it through you guys? What can they do?
As I mentioned before, actually on our website, we have a lot of information about how you can, www.veselka.com. There are avenues there. But as I mentioned before, razomforukraine.org is a major...
How do you spell that, Razom?
R-A-Z-O-M, for Ukraine.org. There's links on our website as well. We would highly recommend. They're continuing to collect and advocate and for humanitarian relief efforts continuing.
So I asked how the restaurant has changed. I'm going to ask each of you individually, how has all of this, the pandemic, the war, the support for Ukraine, the outpouring of support that you guys have seen. Start with you, Tom. How has that changed you? What's been your personal reaction to all of this?
Well, it's been really gratifying, heartwarming to me to see all this support. When the day the war started, we got literally invaded by media. And it was kind of a revelation that, okay, the media see war in Ukraine, so their first reaction is they come to Veselka. And it made me realize that, okay, we are at the center of our little Ukrainian community here, and we're being called upon to react to this. And I couldn't help but thinking that if my father-in-law were still alive, he wanted this place to be a Ukrainian kind of center.
Right.
And over the years, a lot of the Ukrainians had left the neighborhood. It wasn't so much a Ukrainian hub. It was to an extent, but we were supported by all walks of life. And when the war started, to have the media come on us and look to us as spokespeople for Ukraine, that made me feel good. I was glad about that. And
Jason, what's been your personal reaction, and how, if in any way, has it changed you?
You know, being of Ukrainian descent, you know, I felt, you know, a close tie to it, and knowing what my grandfather had started and what he wanted, what he envisioned, you know, that he never got to see, a free Ukraine. That now, after being an independent state of 30 years, that he would do whatever it takes to support and shine that light bright and not be afraid to, you know, advocate. It's definitely, you know, and I had no issues about gathering monies or being a point person. Early on, as Tom said, the media was in our face, and a lot of our employees didn't feel comfortable. You know, it was too emotional, too raw of an issue.
Right.
I became their face, and making applications for 10 employees, which 9 are now working, or 10 refugees, 9 are now working in the business, is very gratifying. That I could play a small part in doing what my grandfather, you know, trying to fill the shoes of my father who set the tone, or my grandfather, that, you know, that we all can pay it forward in some small way in helping keep Ukraine for Ukrainians.
So I guess my final question is, what's ahead for Veselka? What's ahead for the restaurant? Let's hope that there's some kind of resolution to this horrible war, and a reasonably peaceful and positive resolution. What's ahead for the restaurant?
Well, we're celebrating our 70th anniversary this year.
70
years, yes. And I think that's an accomplishment here in New York. There are not many places. I think we
Trust me.
we hang our hat. I think we're the oldest Ukrainian American restaurant here in New York, if not in the U.S. We've successfully opened an outpost at Grand Central Station, a little kiosk for takeout.
I didn't know that.
And we're opening a new place in Brooklyn. So we're definitely happy that people appreciate it and love to eat Ukrainian food, especially Veselkas.
So the documentary is Veselka, the rainbow on the corner at the center of the world. I've been talking with Tom and Jason Birchard, who are the owners of this wonderful restaurant. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I'm Bob Herbert. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.